These trucks were never designed to be comfortable. They didn't care about fuel economy, and they definitely didn't care about your feelings. They were built to survive abuse, overloaded, overheated, and overworked, day after day, year after year. While modern trucks quit because of a warning light, these old beasts kept moving with broken gauges, leaking oil, and no mercy. Today, we're counting down 10 old-school trucks from the 70s and 80s built to last forever. The machines that prove toughness doesn't need software. Stay till the end, because some of these trucks refuse to die even after decades of punishment. Number 10. White Motor Company Road Boss 2. The White Road Boss 2 never chased fame, and that's exactly why it became one of the most durable trucks ever put into fleet service. Built in an era when White Motor Company focused almost entirely on commercial buyers rather than owner-operator image, the Road Boss 2 was engineered around a single idea: maximum uptime. Everything about the truck reflected this philosophy. The frame rails were thick and conservative in design, avoiding aggressive lightweighting that could introduce stress fractures over time. Suspension geometry was simple and predictable, designed to handle repeated loads without developing alignment issues or fatigue cracks. These trucks weren't tuned for speed, they were tuned for endurance. Engines were selected for torque, cooling capacity, and long rebuild intervals rather than horsepower bragging rights. In fleet service, that mattered more than anything else. What truly separated the Road Boss 2 from flashier competitors was its tolerance for abuse. These trucks lived hard lives: municipal work, regional freight, industrial hauling, and often received the bare minimum maintenance. Yet they kept running. Mechanics respected them because everything was accessible. Wiring was straightforward, air systems were logically routed, and drivetrain components were oversized enough to survive missed service schedules. Drivers often described the Road Boss 2 as boring but unstoppable, a truck that never tried to impress but never quit either. Even after years of heavy use, frames often remained straight, axles tight, and suspension components serviceable. Another reason the Road Boss 2 lasted so long was its adaptability. Fleets rebuilt them instead of replacing them. Engines were swapped, transmissions upgraded, axles re-geared, because the core chassis was worth saving. Many Road Boss 2s outlived the companies that bought them, passing into secondary ownership where they continued working for small contractors and owner-operators. The truck didn't rely on proprietary electronics or specialized dealer tools, which meant it stayed useful long after newer trucks became maintenance nightmares. The Road Boss 2 wasn't legendary because it was beautiful. It was legendary because it refused to die quietly. Number 9. ERF EC Series. The ERF EC series represents a uniquely British approach to truck durability: practical, conservative, and brutally honest. ERF never tried to reinvent trucking. Instead, they focused on assembling proven components into a structure that could survive decades of hard labor. During the late 1970s, ERF trucks became common sights in industries where failure wasn't an option: quarry work, bulk haulage, construction supply, and long-distance freight under heavy loads. The EC series embodied that mindset. Frames were deliberately overbuilt, resisting twist and fatigue even when trucks were routinely overloaded. Suspension systems were chosen for reliability rather than ride comfort, and axle setups prioritized longevity over refinement. One of ERF's smartest decisions was avoiding unnecessary complexity. Instead of proprietary engines or experimental systems, ERF relied on well-understood power plants that mechanics already knew how to service. That meant less downtime and fewer catastrophic failures. Electrical systems were simple, mechanical where possible, and easy to diagnose without specialized equipment. The EC series didn't care about showroom appeal. It was designed to live outside, in dirt yards and industrial depots, year after year. Cab interiors were basic but tough, using materials that resisted wear and vibration rather than chasing comfort trends. What truly made the EC series legendary was how slowly it aged. Many trucks accumulated massive mileages without structural failures, something that earned them a cult following among operators who valued predictability. ERF trucks didn't surprise you. They wore down gradually, giving owners time to plan repairs instead of suffering sudden breakdowns. That reliability made them favorites in export markets, where parts availability was limited and roadside fixes were common. In many regions, ERF EC trucks stayed in service long after newer competitors had been scrapped, simply because the economics favored keeping them alive. The EC series proved that boring engineering, when done right, can outlast innovation. Number 8. Foden S80. The Foden S80 was never meant to be admired. It was meant to survive. Built during a time when Foden still embraced traditional heavy engineering, the S80 featured a steel chassis that bordered on excessive by modern standards. That excess was intentional. Foden understood that real-world hauling wasn't gentle, and their trucks needed to endure repeated shock loads, uneven roads, and constant weight variations. The S80's frame resisted torsional flex that slowly destroys lighter designs, and its suspension systems were simple enough to be rebuilt repeatedly over decades of service. In industries like construction, bulk materials, and industrial transport, the S80 earned a reputation for shrugging off punishment. Operators reported that the trucks would show cosmetic wear long before mechanical weakness. Panels rusted, interiors aged, but the bones remained solid. Engines were matched conservatively to drivetrains, preventing overstressing and extending service life. Mechanics appreciated the truck's honesty. When something broke, it was mechanical and fixable, not hidden behind sensors or complex electronics. The S80 also benefited from Foden's traditional manufacturing philosophy. Components were designed with long-term rebuilds in mind. Axles, transmissions, and suspension parts could be refurbished instead of replaced, keeping operating costs low over the truck's lifetime. Many S80s went through multiple ownership cycles, each time continuing to work rather than being relegated to scrapyards. Their longevity wasn't accidental, it was the result of conservative engineering and a refusal to chase trends. In a world where newer trucks often become obsolete due to complexity, the Foden S80 remains a reminder that steel, simplicity, and patience build machines that last. Number 7. Magirus-Deutz 232D 3110D. Magirus-Deutz trucks from the 1970s and 1980s stand apart from almost everything else on the road for one radical reason: air-cooled diesel engines. While other manufacturers struggled with overheating radiators, coolant leaks, and frozen systems, Magirus eliminated the entire cooling circuit. The result was a truck uniquely suited to extreme environments. Models like the 232D and 3110D thrived in deserts, mountains, and remote regions where mechanical simplicity meant survival. Without radiators, water pumps, or coolant hoses to fail, these trucks could operate where others simply couldn't. But the engines were only part of the story. The chassis design was equally rugged. Frames were built to handle severe off-road use, making these trucks popular with military forces, mining operations, and infrastructure projects. Suspension systems were designed for articulation rather than comfort, ensuring traction and structural integrity in brutal terrain. The drivetrains were slow-revving, torque-focused, and capable of running for enormous hour counts with basic maintenance. Mechanics valued Magirus trucks because they were logical. Everything was accessible, mechanical, and understandable. Even in remote locations, repairs were possible with basic tools. That made the trucks invaluable in regions where modern diagnostic equipment was unavailable. Many Magirus-Deutz trucks outlived multiple generations of newer vehicles, remaining operational long after their contemporaries had been retired. Owners often joked that the body would rust away before the engine stopped running, and in many cases that proved true. The 232D and 310D weren't just durable, they were engineered for a world where failure wasn't an option. Number 6. Seddon Atkinson 400 Series. The Seddon Atkinson 400 Series was never designed for highways lined with service centers or gentle long-haul work. These trucks were engineered for environments that actively destroy machinery, quarries, demolition sites, refuse operations, and industrial yards where shock loads were constant and maintenance schedules were often secondary to keeping the job moving. From the beginning, Seddon Atkinson understood that survival mattered more than refinement. The 400 series featured extremely heavy ladder frames with minimal compromises for weight savings, allowing the chassis to absorb repeated impacts without developing the stress fractures that plagued lighter trucks. Suspension systems were brutally simple, prioritizing strength and articulation over comfort, ensuring that components could be rebuilt rather than replaced. What made the 400 series exceptional was its tolerance for abuse. These trucks were regularly overloaded, driven over broken ground, and exposed to dust, mud, and corrosive materials. Yet the core structure, frame, axles, mounts, held together year after year. Engines were selected for reliability and torque, not for efficiency or smoothness. Cooling systems were oversized, drivetrains understressed, and gear ratios chosen to reduce mechanical strain. This conservative engineering approach meant fewer catastrophic failures and more gradual wear, which operators could plan around. In many fleets, the 400 series outlasted multiple generations of newer trucks. When cabs became worn, they were repaired or replaced. When engines tired, they were rebuilt. But the frame remained worth saving. Mechanics respected these trucks because nothing was hidden. No fragile electronics, no inaccessible components, just mechanical honesty. That honesty translated into decades of service life. Even today, former 400 series trucks can still be found working in secondary roles, proving that when a truck is built for the worst conditions imaginable, ordinary work barely registers as stress. Number 5. GMC Astro. The GMC Astro 95 existed in a time when cab-over trucks were chosen not for looks, but for productivity. Designed to maximize cargo length and maneuverability, the Astro 95 became a fleet favorite across North America during the 1970s. But what truly earned its reputation wasn't its layout, it was its endurance. GMC engineered the Astro with a balanced chassis that reduced stress on the frame, particularly important in stop-and-go freight work. The short wheelbase distributed loads efficiently, minimizing frame fatigue over long service lives. Astro 95s were built to run constantly. Fleet operations demanded trucks that could be driven hard, parked briefly, and sent right back out. The Astro delivered that reliability. Engines were matched conservatively to transmissions, keeping RPMs low and component wear predictable. Maintenance access was excellent. The cab tilt made engine service straightforward, which reduced downtime and encouraged regular upkeep. Electrical systems were simple and robust, a major reason these trucks aged gracefully compared to later, more complex designs. What made the Astro 95 legendary was how little drama it produced. It didn't excel in comfort or luxury, but it delivered consistency. Many Astros accumulated massive mileages in freight service, only being retired due to changing regulations or fleet standardization, not because they were worn out. When sold to smaller operators, these trucks often continued working for another decade or more. Their durability wasn't accidental. GMC designed them as tools, not statements. In an industry where reliability equals profitability, the Astro 95 quietly proved that smart engineering beats trends every time. Number 4. Leyland Marathon. The Leyland Marathon was conceived for one purpose: endurance. At a time when European haulage meant long, punishing journeys across multiple countries, Leyland engineers focused on creating a truck that could handle relentless mileage without structural fatigue. The Marathon's frame was designed to resist torsional stress over thousands of hours, a critical factor in long-distance work where road conditions varied wildly. Unlike trucks built for short cycles, the Marathon thrived on continuous operation. Mechanically, the Marathon was conservative by design. Engines delivered steady torque rather than aggressive power, which reduced wear on driveline components. Cooling systems were sized for sustained loads rather than peak bursts, ensuring thermal stability during long climbs and hot conditions. Electrical systems were straightforward and robust, minimizing the risk of intermittent failures that plague high-mileage vehicles. The cab emphasized practicality and durability, offering drivers a space that could withstand years of use without structural degradation. Fleet operators appreciated the Marathon because it aged predictably. Components wore out slowly and evenly, making maintenance planning easier. Breakdowns were rare, and catastrophic failures even rarer. Many Marathons remained in service far beyond their expected lifespan because replacing them offered little advantage. The trucks simply kept delivering. In an era before advanced diagnostics, that predictability was invaluable. The Leyland Marathon didn't chase innovation, it chased reliability, and in doing so, earned a reputation as one of the most durable long-haul trucks of its time. Number 3. Steyr 91 Series. The Steyr 91 series was engineered in a country defined by mountains, snow, and harsh terrain, and it shows in every detail. These trucks were built to operate where failure wasn't just inconvenient but dangerous. Strong frames, excellent weight distribution, and durable drivetrains made the 91 series a favorite in forestry, military logistics, and heavy regional hauling. Steyr prioritized traction, structural integrity, and mechanical simplicity over speed or refinement. What set the 91 series apart was its balance. The trucks weren't excessively heavy, but every component was designed with longevity in mind. Axles and suspension systems absorbed uneven terrain without transferring stress into the frame. Engines were torquey and durable, built to operate reliably in cold climates and under sustained load. Maintenance access was excellent, a necessity in remote areas where professional service wasn't always available. The 91 series earned a reputation for aging slowly. Many units stayed in service for decades, often passing from government or industrial fleets into private ownership where they continued working. Operators trusted these trucks because they were predictable. They didn't surprise you with sudden failures, they simply kept going. In environments that destroy lesser machines, the Steyr 91 series proved that thoughtful engineering and respect for real-world conditions produce trucks that last far beyond expectations. Number 2. International Harvester Co. 47. The International Harvester Co. 4070 Transstar 2 was never meant to be iconic. It was meant to be everywhere. Introduced during a time when North American freight was expanding rapidly, this cabover was engineered for one thing above all else: continuous operation. Fleets didn't buy the Transstar 2 because it looked good or made drivers feel special. They bought it because it ran, day after day, with minimal drama. The design philosophy was brutally practical. The frame was heavy, straight, and conservative, built to tolerate constant loading cycles without twisting or cracking. Axles and suspension components were chosen for durability rather than ride quality, ensuring predictable wear patterns over long service lives. The Co. 4070 thrived in environments where trucks rarely rested. Distribution hubs, regional freight lanes, and cross-country routes relied on these trucks because they could be counted on. Powertrains were deliberately understressed, allowing engines and transmissions to operate comfortably within their limits instead of being pushed for performance. That translated into longer rebuild intervals and fewer catastrophic failures. The cabover layout also played a role in longevity. With a shorter wheelbase, the frame experienced less flex, reducing long-term fatigue. Maintenance access was excellent. Tilt the cab, and everything was there, visible and serviceable. What truly cemented the Transstar 2's reputation was how it aged. These trucks didn't suddenly become unreliable at high mileage. Instead, they wore down slowly and predictably. Fleets could plan rebuilds instead of reacting to breakdowns. Many CO 4070s were retired not because they failed, but because regulations changed: length laws, cabover preferences, emission standards. Structurally and mechanically, many still had years of life left. After fleet retirement, countless units entered secondary service with small operators who continued using them well into the 1990s and beyond. The Transstar 2 didn't become legendary because it was loved. It became legendary because it was trusted. Number 1. Tatra 8115. If durability were measured by survival alone, the Tatra 815 would stand in a category by itself. Introduced in the late 1970s, the 815 wasn't designed for highways or comfort. It was engineered to operate where normal trucks simply fail. Mines, military zones, extreme off-road routes, frozen terrain, and deserts became its natural habitat. The secret to its near-mythical longevity lies in its engineering philosophy, which rejected conventional truck design entirely. Instead of a traditional ladder frame, Tatra used a central backbone tube chassis with independent swinging axles. This design distributes stress evenly across the structure, eliminating the frame twisting that eventually destroys conventional trucks. That backbone chassis is why many Tatra 85s are still working today after 4 decades of punishment. Where other trucks crack, bend, or fatigue, the Tatra absorbs and redirects forces mechanically. The independent suspension allows all wheels to maintain contact with uneven ground, reducing shock loads transmitted into the chassis. Engines were mounted within the backbone structure, protected from external damage and environmental extremes. Powertrains were slow-revving, torque-heavy, and designed to run continuously under load without overheating or overstressing components. The 815's durability wasn't theoretical. It was proven repeatedly in real-world abuse. Military units ran them with minimal maintenance. Mining operations overloaded them daily. Infrastructure projects drove them in conditions that destroyed modern trucks within a few years. And still, they survived. Even when body panels deteriorated, the core structure remained intact. Owners rebuilt them instead of replacing them, because replacement rarely made economic sense. There was simply nothing else as durable. What makes the Tatra 815 truly timeless is that its design hasn't become obsolete. Modern Tatras still use the same backbone philosophy because it works. Very few trucks from the 1970s can claim that their core architecture remains relevant today. The Tatra 815 isn't just built to last forever. It was built beyond fashion, beyond regulation cycles, and beyond conventional engineering limits. That's why, decades later, it still refuses to quit. So that's it for today. If you liked this video, then please hit the like and subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching.